All right, fellas. So let's get right into it, man. So I'm gonna talk about today body game, exactly why most people aren't lean, why most men aren't lean, man. And the thing is, man, when you're lean, you're gonna be looked at differently in the workplace. You know, your family's gonna be like, "What are you doing? Why don't you just eat our food? Why don't you just eat this? Why don't you just eat that?" In the workplace, they're gonna be like, "Why the fuck are you eating that?" I remember I used to bring rice and ground turkey. I used to bring rice and ground beef. I used to bring some potatoes and ground beef. And people would be like, "Oh, watch out for your kidneys. It's too much protein." And I was just looking at them like, "Why isn't your fat ass eating protein? Like, you need this shit. That's why you're on those, type 2 diabetic medication, all this other shit." So you're just going to be looked at differently. People are going to, hate on you and shit like that, which is interesting because you're trying to get healthy and people are going to be hating on you. But it's very uncomfortable. It's a very uncomfortable path, a lot of discomfort on the path to getting lean. All right. Now I know when I make these videos, some people comment, they're like, "Oh, we already know it's mindset to be lean. We already know it's this to be lean. Then why the fuck aren't you lean? Why are you 30% body fat?" You see what I'm saying? But yeah, once you get down to them 8 to 12%, it's like you're gonna, first of all, people are gonna look at you differently, right? And it's because they know that you have to go to a certain place to get there. Let's keep it a buck, man. Let's keep it a buck. Like, majority of the time when you're going from the 20% range to 10% range, there's going to be a lot of discomfort. You're going to have the hunger pains, but you got to still keep grinding. You're going to feel weak sometimes, but you still got to lift heavy. You're going to be unmotivated, obviously, but you still got to show up. And doing that is what a lot of people don't do, right? A lot of people can't keep commitments to themselves. A lot of people can't confide in themselves. That's why they don't have any confidence, right? Because you got to remember, you're the only person who's heard every lie you've ever told. You're the only person. So when you're constantly lying to yourself, you have a hard time believing in yourself and you have a hard time executing. Your physique is a physical manifestation of your mindset. All right. So the reason you see like a lot of lean people with like abs and stuff like that have confidence is not because, the physical appearance of the abs, is because of who they embody and the fact that they're their goal self and the fact that they have self discipline and they have the self confidence from confiding in themselves consistently and showing up day in and day out. That's what it's from. And that's why the fat motherfuckers like get very jealous because they look down and they see a big stomach and they know it's because they don't keep commitments to themselves. So when they see you, they see that you're keeping commitments to yourself, right? But yeah, man, like being lean, I see a lot of people go to the gym, obviously, do a workout here and there. Nothing crazy, but then they're not lean, right? And then I also see some people go super hard in the gym and they're not lean because being lean, like I said earlier, requires a lot of self discipline. And that comes in the form of not only executing in the gym, but also executing when it comes to nutrition and being very intentional with what you eat. I'm going to repeat that, being intentional with what you eat. Most people are not intentional with what they eat. You know what I mean? It's in this world, it's like you DoorDash, you eat fast food. Most people look at food as enjoyment or they eat just to quote unquote enjoy themselves, not knowing that they're slowly killing themselves, right? One of the biggest killers in the world is heart disease and obesity, all right? And those are addictions. Food is addictive, right? Sugar's addictive. Those are big addictions, all right? A lot of people have type 2 diabetes, kidney disease, all those things because of what they're consuming on a daily basis. So most people cannot control that aspect of their life, all right? And I also saw a video on TikTok of some dude was saying, he was saying like, being lean is really the flex because, once you have a lot of muscle mass built up from the gym and you're lean, that means you are both disciplined in and out the gym, and that's rare, right? If you go to the gym and shit like that, you'll see a lot of people with muscle mass, some arm size, some quad size, but then they have a big ass stomach because of what they're eating on a daily basis, right? Or they might have like, saggy chest because, they got big titties because what they eat on a daily basis, man. It's about controlling yourself to the point where you make yourself do what you don't always want to do to get to where you want to get to. And that's what discipline is about, man. That's why most people aren't lean, man. So if you're lean, bro, shout out to you, shout out to you. You probably have a profile picture, of your abs or some shit because you're lean. It is what it is. Like, here's the thing. Everyone that hates on you, by the way, is definitely someone who doesn't have a profile picture and doesn't have abs. And if I didn't have abs, you feel me? And if I was, not keeping commitments to myself, I would probably have a picture of like, Goku or Escanor or some shit. You feel me? Some shit like that. But anyways, the significant discomfort and the significant just ostracization that you get when you're fucking lean is just crazy. You're always going to be like in the workplace, most workplaces, for the most part, like you're just gonna stand out and you're just gonna be the quote unquote weirdo because when you have the company parties where they're eating cake and pizza and all that other stuff, you're gonna be like, I'm good, Or when they're out drinking, like, hey, let's go out for a happy hour. You're like, I'm good, you know what I mean? And they're gonna be like, oh wow, he thinks he's too good for us. When in reality, you just have, basic care for your health because you realize like you realize that if you don't have your health, you don't have anything, right? And that's actually, I'm gonna make a video about like breakups and stuff like that. But usually when you go through a breakup, you start to focus on your health, right? You start to pour back into your health because, like I said, you know that when you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So you really pour into it and you start keeping commitments to yourself because that is where you get a lot of confidence from. That is where you get rid of the depression, anxiety is by working towards your goals and working towards your goal self by executing in the gym and executing out the gym. Like, here's the thing, not to be a gym seller or anything, right? But like the gym is a big deal for what it represents because when you take the principles from the gym and you apply it to other aspects of life, you start to grow. All right. And like I said earlier, your physical body is just a manifestation of your mindset. So when you're locked in and disciplined, you're gonna tend to have a lean physique, right? And that's why people respect that shit, and that's why it's rare. All right. I don't care what anyone says. Go out, look around the world. If it's not a soccer player, if it's not, some kind of athlete, it's gonna be rare to find someone who just locks in under nutrition and works out. Like it's gonna be very, very rare to find that. Like just see a lean person walking around. That's why usually when people see me walking around, they're like, "Oh, you play for a soccer team, you play for a football team, you play for this, you play for that, or you're a celebrity or some shit like that." Because most people aren't lean. They just aren't. It is what it is. I see, and I will always see. It's just the way it is. It's 2025. Obesity is going up, not down. All right, it's not going down. It's going up. All right, so the lean people are looking even more weird because most people are going closer to obesity now and the rates are going up. So every time you see a lean person, it just looks like a juxtaposition to the average person. You see what I'm saying? Average body fat is pushing 30%. But yeah, man, like for everyone out there getting lean, man, I'm telling you, bro, once you get lean, bro, it's like, yeah, you're going to get a lot of hate and stuff like that, but you're going to understand why you're getting the hate because you can push yourself past to a point where other people can't. Like when you're either dropping your calories like I will or you're upping your cardio, like you're getting uncomfortable and at that moment you're like, oh yeah, this is why I'm lean, this is why people aren't. People ain't doing this shit. Like, bro, when you're tired, niggas, when they're tired, they are not doing cardio or dropping their calories. Like, just imagine, like, for example, when I'm like 13% trying to get to 8, my calories might be down at like 2100 or some shit like that, but I'm lifting heavy as hell. You see what I'm saying? I'm lifting heavy as hell still, and I'm going home and I'm, keeping all my carbs natural, natural sugars and shit like that, my protein high. Like people ain't doing that shit, bro. People are working out and then they'll be like, I deserve a big meal. That's what regular people are doing, but you're on that next level. So when you're lean and people are like, oh, you're just lucky to be lean, you know that they're hating and you understand that, like, yeah, they ain't doing what the fuck I'm doing. They're not gonna be consistent. They can do what I'm doing for 2 weeks. I mean, it's not that hard, but they can't be consistent with it. They'll make excuses, right? And I saw someone say some shit about like, well, it depends on your situation. Like, what if you have a family and you can only work out 3 times a week? That's perfect, right? Because your body fat percentage is basically based on whether you're in a deficit or not, right? If you're trying to lose fat, then eat in a deficit. It's what you eat. You control what you eat. There's no fucking excuses. And if you have kids, you need to set an example for them. So it's more important for you if you have kids than if you're single to be in shape. All right, because you're an example for them. So if you're eating Cheetos, now your kids are eating Cheetos. Now they're gonna be fat as fuck and have a horrible life because of you. All right, period.